Hey guys, today I'm going to do a study on Leviticus chapter 2, so let's get into it. When anyone presents a grain offering as an offering to the Lord, it consists of fine flour. He is to pour olive oil on it, put frankincense on it. So this is for the grain offering, which is like food offerings to like actual animals, and this is like kind of like how grain back in the day was like kind of like, well, it's food. It's like kind of like money and so basically like the producer that want, so like giving up money, kind of, I guess you could say. Grain offering also like put fragrances on it. So fragrances is pretty valuable, and like it's a pretty valuable resource, and like later on it also gets to it's one of the gifts that the wise men give Jesus when he was born. Like God, I think it was God, frankincense and more. I could be wrong, but about the gold part. And bring to Aaron's son the priest. The priest would take a handful of fine flour and oil from it, along with all its fragrances, and would burn this memorial proportion of it on the altar, a food offering, a pleasing aroma to the Lord. But the rest of the grain offering will belong to Aaron's son. It is the holiest part of the food offering. When you present a grain offering, bake in the oven. It's to be made of fine flour, either unleavened cakes mixed with oil or unleavened wafers coated with oil. So yeah. So they're to get the grain offering, and the rest of the grain offering will belong to Aaron's son. So like these priests, like they need to like eat food. So like some of the grain offering is for like the priests to eat. When you present a grain offering, bake in the oven. It's made of fine flour, either unleavened cakes mixed with oil or unleavened wafers coated with oil. Also another thing about unleavened. So leaven is like representation of like sin, and unleavened is like the absence of sin. So like this is kind of like representing like God, like Jesus is like unleavened bread. He's like he's flesh that like doesn't have any sin in it, and like he's like Jesus says like to like in one of the past like Lord's Supper thing, he says like to I'm trying to find it. Okay. I'm just going to do the Luke one, but he reclined at table, pauses with him. Then he said to them, I fully desire to eat this Passover with you before I suffer. For I tell you, I will not eat it again before I suffer. For I tell you, until it is fulfilled, I will not eat it again until it is fulfilled in the kingdom of God. Then he had the cup, and after giving thanks, he said, Take this and share among yourself. For I tell you, from now on I will not drink of the fruit of the vine till the kingdom of God that comes. And took bread, and gave thanks, broke and gave it to them, and said, This is my body, which is given for me. Do this as remembrance for me. In the same way, he also took the cup after the supper and said, This cup is the new covenant in my blood, which is poured out for you. So, the bread part, he's like unleavened bread, like unsinful bread. So, like, we eat like the bread, which is the communion, like the Lord's Supper. We eat the bread in representation of like his body, so we're eating his sinless body, and we're also drinking the blood. So like, and other places says like you do this, like eat my body and drink my blood. And that's the only way, like that. like, if you want eternal life, you have to eat Jesus' body and drink his blood. And unleavened bread is kind of a representation of Jesus' flesh. Break into pieces and pour oil on it. It is a grain offering. If your offering is a grain offering, prepare on the plan. It's to be made of fine flour of oil. When you bring to the Lord the grain offering made in any of these ways, is to be presented to the priest, and he will take it to the altar. The priest will remove the memorial portion from the grain offering and boil it on the altar, a food offering, a pleasing aroma to the Lord. But the rest of the grain offering will belong to Aaron and his sons. It is the holiest part of food offering to the Lord. No grain offering that you present to the Lord is to be made with yeast, for you are not to burn any yeast or honey as a food offering to the Lord. So yeast is also leaven, and yeast is representation of sin. And like honey, it could be like representation of like how it says somewhere. I don't know if it says it in Psalms or something else, but like sin tastes sweet, like for a season, but then it tastes like not good, like gravel. Some translations say for like the rest of the seasons. So sweet like honey. So sin is like sweet like honey for a season, but it's like gravels in your like mouth for like the rest of the seasons. So honey could also be representation of the sweetness of sin. You may present them to the Lord as an offering of first fruits, but they are not to be offered on the altar as a pleasing aroma. So you can't like you can present bread with sin or like honey for the first fruits, but not like as an actual like offering as a pleasing aroma. You are to season each of your grain offerings with salt. You must not omit from your grain offering the salt the covenant with your God. You present salt with each of your offering. So like you are to season each of the grain offering with salt, and that like Jesus says like in like Matthew, I believe. You want the salt off, but if the salt should lose its taste, how can it be made salty? It's no longer good for anything but to be thrown out and trampled under people's feet. So, we are called to be the salt of the earth, and every basically saying like be good. Like it also was paired with being a light of world. So like do like show like the world like your light, and show them Jesus Christ, and show them like all the good things. And like being like salt on like the grain offering is kind of like how like you gotta provide like you gotta show like your goodness and like stuff like that. If you present a grain offering and first fruits to the Lord, you'll present fresh heads of grain, crushed kernels roasted on the fire for your grain offerings of first fruits. They put oil and frankincense on it. It is a grain offering. The priest would then burn some of it from its crushed kernels and oils with its frankincense as a food offering to the Lord. So yeah. And also another thing, a thing that like I kind of got, because like grain, like I said before, is kind of like, because back in the day when it said like give tithes, it wasn't talking about really like the money they got. It was talking about like the produce they grow. So like a grain offering like today could be symbolic for like, it's like not it's kind of like giving like money, and like how like some of the grain offering goes to Aaron and his sons because they need to eat. It's kind of like how like pastors like get paid by like get some of the money that the tithes go to. Like the tithes go to church, and then like some of the pastors receive the money from the tithes. So like Because now we don't really like to do grain offerings, but we do still give tithes to the church. So yeah. But yeah. So this has been a study of Leviticus chapter 2, which is about how the grain offerings works and all the rules for it. And yeah. So if any experienced Christian sees this and I said anything wrong, please correct me. And if you like this video, like it. And if you think I'm doing something good, subscribe. And I'll see you the next day if the Lord wills. Bye.